Well, Tom, Valentine's Day is coming right up. Accepting the point of view that, yeah, it's a materialist holiday, doesn't mean much, yada, yada, yada. I will be celebrating with my partner. I know a lot of friends and family that are. You had made the observation recently that good communication can be the best Valentine's Day gift.
It's amazing to me how difficult some of the simplest things can be in communication. The best communication advice I can possibly give anybody in terms of personal relationship is slow down. Anybody who's been in a relationship for any length of time knows that feeling of how fast one or two sentences into a conversation and you know it's going south. I learned about quicksand by watching Tarzan movies when I was a kid. So I use the rules I learned from the Tarzan movies about quicksand. And that is, once you get into quicksand, the harder you fight, the faster it pulls you under. Those conversations where we get in and we're stuck in the same conversation we've had a million times, we could hit the pause button and interview everybody and say, is this going anywhere good? Everybody involved will say, nope, no way. And you push the button again, and we just keep talking. What's happening in those situations is two people are communicating, but really what's happening is two people's defenses are communicating. It's just defense begets defense. So it's like, if we can't keep the defenses down, then we can't actually have a conversation. So once anybody's defense is up, most often somebody else's is going to come up, and it's like that's where you have to take a break. One of the tools is that tools are take turns. There's a very simple tools. It's take turns, give information is number 2. Number 3 is gather information. Number 4 is problem solve with benevolence. Number 5 is future orient to problem solve. That's a very important one. I'll say something about that in a minute. 6 is take breaks. And 7 is my very favorite, which is called backtrack. So the first one is take turns. What we don't do in professional settings is we don't put 3 or 4 agenda items out at the same time and then have the conversation all at once. But that's exactly what we do in our relationships, in our personal relationships. I say to you, listen, I got a problem with so-and-so and so-and-so. And you say, well, I'm glad you said that because I also have a problem with you about this other thing. Okay. Now, that's guaranteed to be a conversation that we're each having our own conversation without the other person. We're not going to yell. The definition of yelling is if your partner says that you're yelling, and
it's a good rule of thumb.
Okay. The second one is give information. State your perceptions and your feelings concisely and respectfully. Avoid selling your side as the gospel truth, even when it feels as that is the way it is. To resolve any conflict, room must be made for 2 different perspectives. This is one of the hardest things for couples to get a lot of times, is there are going to be 2 perspectives that are going to exist here. Because what we end up doing is having conversations where the reason the debate gets nowhere is because we're debating whose perception is correct. You may be way off in terms of how you perceive something, but both perceptions have merit. The fourth one is to solve problems with benevolence. As long as we're in an adversarial position, we can win battles, but we can't really solve problems. We have to be on the same side of the problem in order to solve it. The metaphors I use a lot with couples is something that Dee Dee and I came up with a long time ago, was lifetime lab partners. We're working on dilemmas that get presented to us, and some of them are our individual dilemmas, but some of them are for us to work out together. Marriage is just one long ass conversation. Don't say I need to have this talk, because it can be so ominous. Just, we need to have this talk. No, we need to begin this talk. We need to open this subject. The fifth one is future orient to problem solve. This is, to me, very important. My little one-liner is, learn from the past and get the hell out of there. So the next step of that is the future orienting thing, which is, I say, basically my hypothesis about what the solution would be. The reason I make this a point on the list with future orient to problem solve is that our tendency is to future orient. So I'd rather you do this, and that would feel better to me. Almost all of us will do this. We will then go back to the past and say, because when you do this other thing, it makes me really upset and I don't like that. And you do it a whole lot. So what you see is what we did is we go back and we end or punctuate with the negative. You can't end your part of the conversation until you're at the future oriented part. You have to end with saying what you want. And I know I'm not the Lone Ranger, but I'm pretty sure that I had this issue much more than she did. I would have this thing where I go like, this not going well, but I just need you to understand this one thing. That's where we come to step 6, which is take breaks. I was terrible at taking the break, and I was worse at respecting the break. And the rule that goes with that, I promise, is if you take a break, you have to come back. And maybe it's going to be a 5 minutes, or maybe it's going to be an hour, or maybe it's going to be tomorrow. But what I usually say, I mean, it's differs with couples, but usually the person who takes the break is responsible to start the conversation back up. Most likely, one of you is going to be like I was in that situation. It's going to be harder for you to take a break. When you do learn how to take breaks and come back, it's really amazing how much more benevolence you really can have. Just to be able to say, look, I'm really working on this, like I know that I'm having a hard time with this thing here, but I'm really working on it. And and so you can have those conversations. The last tool here is backtrack. All progress is not forward. Sometimes the best you can do is stop mid-mistake and apologize and ask for an opportunity to do it again. A mulligan, I think we call it, right? Give me a mulligan.
Yeah.
Now, if you're asking for that all the time, it's going to wear thin. So be careful. Matter of fact, I not long ago, I had a couple. I had worked with them quite a while, know them pretty well. So I feel really open and easy working with them. But at one point, this guy had said something to his wife that at a content level, it sounded really good, but he said it with real edge of an attitude. I just said, cut, grabbed the clapper board. I just went into my director mode, and I just said, okay, now this time I want you to play this scene in which you use exactly the same lines you had, perfect lines, very well written. I said, but I want you to play it as if you're not an asshole, and he go, now you wouldn't say that to somebody in the first session, but he and I kind of appreciate each other's weird sense of humor. And I swear I clapped those sticks, and he did a beautiful job with it. He understood it. He got it. He separated that assholism from it. One of the things that I definitely use in my work with people is some level of humor, not to laugh it off, but to be basically just so we can just see that we're all working toward the same thing. And you can do that when you're not in therapy too. Don't use humor to distract or get away, and beware of sarcasm. By the way, we could do a whole nother piece on that. That's a dangerous thing. Having gone through this list, this communication 101, I'm thinking it's really a nice thing for couples to have, but I'm thinking that's not really a good gift for Valentine's Day.
It's fundamental to having a healthy relationship. And I think that and the best case scenario for Valentine's Day is that you're celebrating the health